Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Until about 6 hours ago, I didn't think much of gang stalking. I can see both sides. It's possible that a person with those thoughts may simply be delusional, or maybe there is technology which could facilitate the ability to gang stalk someone. I'm going to try and make this as short as possible. I will miss some parts to keep it short. I can answer questions, but usually my threads die anyways. But this is a way for me to alleviate some anxiety. Worked for a guy for 6 months who owned his own business. When I worked there, I was super depressed and I was into Alex Jones. But I wasn't open about that, but we had contrasting views fundamentally. And while I did a good job, I made quite a few errors, but it was my first real job. I was contacted by an agency who got me a job working for a huge company in my country, which used to be a part of the government before it was made private. I don't really even know why I got the job, except that I had a really good letter of recommendation from the guy I worked for previously. To cut a long story short, I worked for this company for 7 months before I was put on paid leave, because they felt like I wasn't 100% in the head. I was locked up for a night in prison because I hit someone and my manager found out. When I spoke to my manager, I acted pretty weird towards the end, because I was going through some really hard depression and I had a bad trip around that time. Summer of 2018, I was put on paid leave before having my contract terminated November. I was able to get another job in April, but I was essentially hired on the spot because the guy saw I was fairly intelligent, and I would be able to do a fairly tricky job as the current guy who was leaving fairly short notice. One day I was walking to work and I saw a girl who used to work at the place I was previously fired from. We had a similar route from work to where I would get a bus and she would just go wherever. Then after a few months I found a quicker route. I saw her after I'd been working at my current job for at least 4 or 5 months. She was wearing dark work clothes and she was outside a car dealership with her phone. I saw her and I can't remember if she looked at me. I do remember being fairly close to her when I walked past her while she was on her phone. I thought to myself that the next time I saw her, I might try to pluck up the courage to ask her about the previous company, and that I recognized her, and maybe I could get some information. I literally never saw her again. I would go the same route because, like before, I found a faster way to get to work after some time. I never saw her again. When I saw her and when I went past the first time, it was at the same time I would go past every day, and it was the time the employees were turning up to work, getting out of their cars, talking and having a smoke before work. Some time passed and eventually I got fired from my current job. The same thing happened. I started talking too much and they saw more of my personality, and eventually I got blamed for something serious that I actually didn't do. I was fired again, at home living with anxiety quite bad because I was blamed for something I didn't do. I went to shop, and when I was going back down my street about to cross the road to my house, a car passed by. The window was down, and I saw a guy who used to work at the first company I got fired from. I was 99% sure it was him. He always had spiky hair, and he was very skinny build, but not a skeleton. He went to the gym, but was very slim. I was so sure that I told my mother I saw someone from the first place I worked, but she convinced me I probably didn't. Now, that all above and my previous post isn't enough to worry me, really. I got over it, and nothing bad happened. However, today I had a notification on my Facebook. I don't really use Facebook except to talk to my dad when I want to arrange a meetup. The notification was from a girl who I've never met before. She had reacted to a post on my Facebook that I had put on there, which said I had started a job at the first place I got fired from, the huge company which was private. I had never taken it down, so on my page it still said I was working there. The reaction was a ha-ha emoji. When I tried to click on her profile from the notification, it took me to my job post. When I clicked on her name in the reaction on the job post, it is literally grayed out. I tried to search for her name on Facebook, but no one called that exists. I went onto an alt account in case I had been blocked, but I still couldn't find this person. I Googled her name, and there were literally 0 searches. I even got this message, picture related.
This really does happen, though. Not to random 4chan schizos, but people who are real threats to people with money and power. People as low down as janitors or servers can overhear the wrong boardroom conversations and end up either paid off or more likely made to go missing. probably get weird experimentation done on you, and then incinerated after your guinea pig days are over. I'm just saying, if I'm an evil corporation, I'm going to make the most of having a human captive and do highly illegal experiments like neurolinks and nano implants and turn your ass into J.C. Denton.
Wonder to myself, am I being gangstalked? Nah, that's crazy. I'm just paranoid. I'll just ignore anyone who I think is following me or staring at me. They're probably just living normal lives like me, right? Stop paying attention to them. They start making it known that they're messing with me, blocking me, driving really slow past me when I go for walks, following me to diverse areas, only being loud when I'm doing sensitive tasks, etc. Start to get paranoid once again.
You are being gang-stalked. Stop gaslighting yourself. Think back to when it started happening and what you might have done to upset some people, and also when have they got a picture of you. Once you figure all of that out, you won't doubt yourself anymore.
I can't say much because it seems like they're already here trying to bait me with something specific. It started as something incredibly petty and personal to a vindictive person who was said to have done something really bad, but was never held responsible. But as it snowballed, my eyes were slowly opened to a devastating realization that completely broke me in 2017 to 2018, and I'm still putting the pieces back together. The realization that yes, bad people, not just one, but a whole coalescence of scum with the same type of secrets to hide, will absolutely lie and shamelessly take part in a witch hunt just to deflect from their own malfeasance might not seem that shocking to all of you. But I'd found ways to preserve my innocence and naivety for a long time, probably longer than I had any right to. Have you guys ever had someone tell such a brazen lie in front of a group of people that your brain just could not comprehend what was truly happening? Like that old Solzhenitsyn quote, "You know they're lying, they know they're lying." I'm not really a fan of Jordan Peterson outside his peer-reviewed work, but one thing he said broke my heart because I'd learned it to be true. When someone encounters real malevolence for the first time, it breaks them and causes them to rebuild their understanding of the world. When awful people think they can use you to absolve themselves of all their sins, the stakes are high and everyone becomes like a dog with a bone. It wouldn't even be that bad if I could prove it. I'd do almost anything to prove to myself I'm not crazy. But the underhandedness is a huge source of their sadistic pleasure, which is why it never becomes fully overt.
I thought gang-stalking was just a schizo meme, but I am sure they are watching me and I am on some kind of watch list. Just because I am paranoid doesn't mean the intelligence agencies aren't observing me. Click-related, that helicopter followed me around for 15 minutes a few months ago, and just today a single-seater helicopter was hovering just 20 feet away from my apartment for 5 minutes. By the time I grabbed my phone to take a pic, he was sadly gone. The pilot probably noticed I wanted to take a pic. I wonder what triggered them to watch me and make it so obvious like that. Intimidation tactics. I am not intimidated. Try harder. On that note, hello feds. Any other non-schizo anons with the same experiences?
Please take your medication. Helicopter fuel is expensive and you are not important. No one is wasting the time and effort to watch you with a helicopter.
Screw you. They followed me specifically. It was very obvious that I was the target. I tested it, believe me. Rode my bike to several alleyways and the heli showed up right above my head every time. This cat and mouse game went on for 15 minutes. And that single-seat heli in front of my apartment this morning. What about it? Yes, I am a nobody. No one believes me, and that's exactly why they probably do it. BTW, the company I work at, got hacked in June and workers' info got leaked. Coincidence? I think not.
Something new happened that was interesting and hasn't happened before. Dropping my kid off at daycare, a sleazy little guy in shades and a baseball cap covering his eyes came up and asked me some questions about the daycare center's prices. I helped him as much as I could. My GF handles all that. Then left. Anytime I engage with pretty much anyone, I have gang stalking and targeted individuals in the back of my head. In this case, I figured it was an up-close assessment to see how they should approach me for a hit. Maybe because things are about to be finally brought to fruition. I'm ashamed of how much hope that gives me. I love my son with all my heart, but given the nature of the targeting, I came to the conclusion just before he was born that he'll be better off without me in his life. Not because of anything I've done or will do, but because of almost everybody else, and my complete lack of power to do anything about it, to even know if this is real or not, or I'm just crazy. With my last breath, I'll ask God to keep him and his mother safe until we see each other again. We were meant to buy a property soon for a decent price, and adding to my shame, she was pretty much able to secure the loan by herself. But if I'm no longer around, she'll get my meager retirement fund plus my life insurance through that fund. These together will almost pay for the place outright, reducing a 30-year mortgage to like 5 or 10. It pains me to think of how many cockroaches will be around him growing up sullying my name, and that I no longer have the heart or energy to even leave him my side of the story. But if he's anything like me, something in him will never sit right with it. He'll always know there's something fundamentally broken about the world, and some faint memory of our bond will keep him.
The worst thing about gangstalking is that there are probably real targeted individuals, but nobody takes them seriously because of all you assholes who either just claim to be stalked because you crave attention and want to feel important, or think that you're being stalked solely because you've fried your brain with drugs and now you're a paranoid schizo.
Very few ever try to get any kind of real evidence for their claims either. Gang stalking methodology is impossible to catch by anyone but the government or an extremely competent private eye who can hack into literally anything and everything. Electronic harassment is the one thing that can be proven, and still nobody even bothers. They just complain every single day about how it ruins their life while begging for someone else to help them. At a point, people have to accept that the cavalry is not coming and help themselves.
Sometimes it can be difficult. Within hours of posting in this thread, I had what sounded like a very large chopper pass over my house, loud enough to shake the windows. In a flash, I checked my city's air traffic, and there were only 2 choppers, both some distance away, and both had flight paths that had come nowhere here. I heard it coming, but by the time I reached for my device to get a video to show you guys it had passed.
Many targeted individuals have gathered enough compelling evidence to make a credible case. The problem is that because it is the own government that carries out the persecution, they do everything in their power to prevent the lawsuit from going anywhere, and thus the targeted individual just loses time and money in a lawsuit that goes nowhere. In the few cases that organized harassment is indeed proven, a few actors are lightly punished, and the targeted individual is either left alone or stalked by other agents. That's the biggest problem with organized stalking, that the government has too many agents at their disposal to stalk and harass people. Usually when a private investigator looks into gangstalking, they get gang-stalked themselves until they leave the case alone, and some have even committed self-termination.
I'm not aware of anyone that's ever produced sufficient evidence of gang stalking or anything else related to this phenomenon, and I've followed this community very closely for a decade now. Photos of people walking their dogs and random license plates don't prove anything. You'd have to intercept whatever communications those activities are orchestrated through, when the perceived activities are actually occurring in the first place, and literally prove conspiracy. And chances are those communications would be close to impossible to trace, because the V2K likely being used to do so is directed, not broadcasted, which makes it an entirely different matter from typical transmitters when attempting to locate or intercept signals. A private investigator would literally have to be right on top of the suspect with the full range of SIGINT equipment in order to catch them doing this. They have this situation fully under control, I assure you. They can prevent detection indefinitely with the use of AI. It would take internal investigation from military or other governmental agency, and we all know that is extremely unlikely to ever happen on behalf of regular citizens. If the situation ever changes, it will only be because it was permitted. That's simple.
I use the make of vehicles and actions taken after I make a statement to my phone. Since they have us tapped, I usually pick up from intuition on who's working for who. My area is also pretty Hispanic, so robotic white men with sunglasses always on, fit with tactical shirts, usually stand out. Another thing is they don't like my dusty town, so they usually hit up a car wash near me to maintain their clean Hyundais, which are SUV models or trucks, and attempt to blend in with the natives. Upon speaking to my phone describing the make of a vehicle, they take off, which further implies they either heard me or were relaying information that I was aware of them.
Look up Zersetzung. It is meant to suppress and control. Despite what any article would tell you, these procedures were not unique to Germany or that short time period. Almost every government does this, and it is for the same reasons. But it's not just governments. Some secret societies, rogue government agencies, cults and gangs also employ this tactic to people they are afraid of. They have only gotten more sophisticated over the decades. Stay strong. You need to understand what is happening to you. The why is less important. Knowing who is doing it would also be helpful. That way you know better what to expect. Don't trust anyone. Some of them, especially on the cult and government side, like to employ your closest friends and relatives without them even knowing what the purpose of their behavior is in the scheme. Save up money, lots of it. Whether you need to get out or not is for you to decide, but if you do choose to get out, you need to proceed as the whistleblowers branded traitors do and move far away while finding allies. Whatever you do, though, keep fighting back in whatever way you can and never give up. Document in a self-explanatory and undeniable way what is happening to you. Recordings are useful, but don't be stupid and overt about it. Stay alive and defiant. Good luck.
Be me in 2020. Tell everyone that the plague is fake and the government is in on it. Change diet, ride bike every day, stop biting nails, lifetime habit, quit cigs. Start bringing my hammock to the park and reading books and the Bible. Notice I have been seeing a guy around town also riding his bike but has an orange flag attached to the back of his bike. We start talking about politics and current events. He offers me a sandwich. WTF, no thanks, I'm good, ride my bike away. Keep seeing this man over the next few weeks no matter what town I'm in or where I go. One night when I'm riding my bike home after dark, I noticed a van has been following me for a few blocks. I take a back route home, but the van still manages to find me. Make it to my street and then a van goes full speed to catch up with me. Make it inside, take a break from bike riding. Eventually lose all my friends and family over the plague stuff. Parents call cops and they haul me to the psych ward. They drug me against my will and kept me there for 2 days. They only let me leave when I kept spurging about HIPAA laws. I get out and immediately regress back into all of my old bad habits. To be fair, I am pretty certain that I was in the middle of a schizomanic episode, as I thought there were nanobots coming out of my skin and lots of other wacky stuff. I kinda can't blame my parents for calling in hindsight, still experience nonetheless.
I'm going through this gangstalking thing for maybe 3 years now. Currently, they seem to be playing sounds that make it hard to sleep at night, like someone is in a car nearby. There's some snapping sound that follows me around the house and I have no idea how they're doing that. This thing has only gotten worse this year ever since I moved to this new house. I can probably say this is all my fault because I was pretty mentally ill until recently, with me being real sensitive to sounds. Taking the parasite pill fixed me up, but the way they messed with me, it doesn't feel human at all. At one point it felt like they had microwave weapons pointed at me and I thought I was going to die. I'm probably in some kind of fed neighborhood now. It's 4 a.m. right now and I woke up to some sound. Couldn't sleep. Decided to mess around and go to the front door just to stare at neighbor's garage. Recently he's decided to leave the lights in his garage on. They're red. Probably wants to make it look real spooky or something. So I was staring for a bit and a white flash came on his second floor window and his front door. Nays what I thought. Then I go to the kitchen to get some food. Turn off the lights and go back to the front door to do it again. I get another flash. I'm just a neat. If this kind of thing is happening to me, it can happen to anyone, I guess. My thoughts on gangstalking though. It's stupid. I just want to be left alone.
Years ago, I was getting followed by the FBI. Sometime around 2004, I happened to be at a park where an anti-war Iraq was happening. I joined in, marching all over Center City. The funny thing about protests is how organized they are. And I don't mean the protesters are organized. I mean the police. They know where we are, where we're going, etc. About 30 cop cars were waiting for us when we marched over to a bridge they wanted to take over and shut down. I noped out of that. Walking to the train to go home, had my picture taken at least a half-dozen times. Some by people with tripod cameras set up. Some I saw flashes from inside black SUVs with illegally, for civilians, tinted windows. For the next couple of years, I would constantly see black SUVs with illegally tinted windows outside my house, driving by me slowly as I walk around, parked outside my work, where I could see them through the glass door from the front counter. One day, the SUV parked outside my work had the passenger window rolled down so that I could see the driver, who kept looking at me, dark sunglasses on, writing on a clipboard. At this point, it was clear that this is not surveillance, but intimidation. Stay in your place, because we know where you live. I said to myself, screw it. I went outside, lit up a cigarette, and said real loud, "Hi there," waving. He dropped the clipboard real quick and drove away. Haven't seen the black SUVs since.
When a normal person thinks they're being followed by an aggressive individual or group, they respond with confrontation to settle the problem. MITZU to Texas and start gang-stalking a regular churchgoer, you'll just get a gun in your face and that'll be the end of it. These people that post online about the world following them and secretly having a plan against them are just delusional and self-centered. They think their phone is getting hacked, and instead of resetting their password, they'll immediately suspect someone around them is doing it. They love to point fingers at absolutely everyone. Here's a wake-up call. There is no such thing as privacy. Other people can read your thoughts. They just don't tell you about it, mostly because they usually don't care. Literally everyone can read your emails and browser history. And yes, they're stealing your precious ideas. But when a person starts using a VPN because they don't want the government knowing what they post on 4chan, that person probably has a lot of shit under the rug themselves about other stuff, not to mention on a personal level. And the demonization projecting is because it's ironically them who's possessed by something they don't like about themselves or their own situation, which they immediately project on everybody else.
I feel attacked by this. Nice try, but I know it's the government.
Film them. Film everything and watch it back to see if it's real, and if it is, post the evidence on /x/ or Facebook or wherever. This way the internet can tell you if it's some kind of gaslighting. A deliberate attempt to make you think you're going crazy, or gangstalking or whatever, or if this is a case of paranoid delusion and schizophrenia. Obviously if you are being gangstalked, then there's a very high chance those people are in this thread and making posts telling you you're crazy is the obvious thing they do here, but I have to say, thinking that the television and radio is in on it is a pretty clear sign of paranoid delusion. Based on this alone, I'd suggest you at least consider that this may all be in your head, in which case you should describe what's happening to a doctor and let them refer you to a specialist. Set up a webcam and some screen capture software, keep it running when you sleep or go outside, and check if they were secretly in your home. If they were, call the police with that evidence. You should also get a cheap digital camera and a few SD cards for storage. Log each event, keep a digital sound recorder going when you're out in public, and if anything happens, note the time of the event so you can find it on the sound recorder later and save it. Take a picture of anyone who you are sure is involved as well, film any confrontation and keep a dossier of the entire situation. Once you've got a significant amount of evidence, you can take it either to the police or to a doctor, asking the doctor if you're crazy or if this is real and get a second opinion. Either way, I hope things get better for you anon.
This shows how corrupt the police and government are. They abuse people and destroy their lives. People like this are victims and are only mentally ill due to the abuse they inflict on them. If it wasn't for the abuse and corruption, these people would be perfectly fine and living happy lives. Instead, they are made mentally ill and their lives are ruined as a result. Screw the glowies, screw the police, and screw whatever authority and/or agency who do these things to people. You are the real problem. You use your authority to torture and abuse people for your own sick gratification. You are not doing any kind of justice. You are just evil and sadistic. You are the kind of people who need to be locked up so you can't harm people. You are the real danger to society and vulnerable people who suffer from years of abuse and torture that you inflict. Ruining not only the people's lives you target, but their families' lives and everyone who knows them. Come at me, bro. I see you glowing.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.